CQL has worked with organizations for over 40 years to help them in their journey towards excellence in person-centered services and supports. This video provides an overview of the dynamics that guide organization transformation. We'll share ideas and insights about how organizations make transformational change, what really works in organizations, and what leaders can do to make change work. Why this focus on change and transformation? Well, perhaps Will Rogers said it best. Even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Our focus on organization transformation and change builds on over 20 years of work with personal outcome measures and our new guide to person-centered excellence. From these initiatives and field-based experience, we've learned what really works in organizations. Our learning comes from our data and experience, business leaders, researchers, and scholars. Our practice in the field, working with organizations dedicated to person-centered excellence. In the past, traditional approaches to quality emphasized uniformity, consistency, task specification, and hierarchy of authority. The assumption was that there was a standardized way of delivering services that would produce good results for all people. However, we learned through our work with the personal outcome measures that each of us has very personal and preferred definitions of outcomes in our own lives. Having friends, participating in the community, being healthy has a different definition for each of you. And because each of you has very different and very personal outcome expectations, we can't standardize the approach and think what gives you your outcomes will give someone else his outcomes. It just doesn't work that way. CQL has worked for over 20 years to help organizations individualize their approach and help people discover what are their most important outcomes through conversation with people, and what services and supports facilitate those outcomes through conversation with people and those who know them best. After years of advocacy and billions of dollars of support, we still don't see meaningful progress in people's lives when it comes to the critical outcomes of choice, community, and social roles. We also ask questions about which outcomes, if present in people's lives, are most likely to contribute to having many other outcomes. In other words, which outcomes can predict the achievement of lots of personal outcomes. As this chart indicates, the answers are somewhat disturbing. Those outcomes that best predict having lots of other outcomes, like exercising rights and choosing where to live or work and having different social roles, are in fact the ones found for the least number we've interviewed for the past 15 years. We need to do better. And today we face added challenges. We have fewer financial resources and see continuously shifting political priorities. It's difficult to focus attention on the real issues in this environment. Organizations have multiple demands in terms of organizational time, energy, and resources, more than ever before. We need to clear away the distractions and focus energy and resources on efforts that are sustainable and that will produce results. That will make a difference. We are being tested. First, in any situation, you're confronted by a set of assumptions that are unclear. People assume lots of things about organizations, and you've got to break through those assumptions people are making. It's our assumptions that do us in. Second, organizational norms. These are the unwritten rules that everyone in the organization has. They may not be explicit, but they are the rules that govern how people behave. Third, you're also confronted by the reaction to change. When you talk about change, everyone will say, "You can't do that," or "We've tried that in the past." You'll get lots of reasons why it won't work. Fourth, there is a limitation to what you can do with facts and data. You can present all the facts and figures in the world and people will still respond, but that doesn't apply to us. And fifth, all the data in the world will not cause people to make change. You've got to couple it with some other dynamics. It's the power of values and vision that will help you make the case for change. Anybody that wants to make change faces some real challenges. Looking at this graph that appeared in the Academy of Management Review helps us understand how change happens. On one axis is a measure of acceptance of change, from low to high. On the other, we have the size of change, from small to big. And what the authors discovered is, when you want to make the change happen, you've got to be in the middle, the change acceptance zone. You have to explain the change being acceptable, something that is reasonable and can be done. If you fall into the first area, in which you describe the change as small, the reaction is likely to be, "We're already doing this." In this zone, change is perceived as unnecessary. The acceptance is low. For instance, you say, "We ought to be doing person-centered services." The responses you get are, "We're already doing that. It's in our mission statement. We practice it. We've had people to teach it. Don't worry about it. No big deal." The other response you get, to the far right of the graph, is, "We couldn't possibly do that. We don't have enough money, time, staff. You just don't understand the regulations that we have in our state." Or, "You just don't understand. We serve the most difficult people. It just won't work with them." In this zone, change is perceived as unattainable, and acceptance is also very low. What the authors found is that you've got the greatest possibility of making change in your organization if you depict this as being a reasonable but significant challenge in the work of the organization. So when thinking about change, don't overstress the demand and don't sell it too short. Let people see it as something that needs to take place in the middle, the change acceptance zone. Otherwise, the defense mechanisms of, "We're already doing it, and it's too hard," will take over the organization. Aim your transformation towards the middle. Once you decide on the change or innovation, you need to communicate it. Find the message that will make the change effort stick. And the message has to be repeated and repeated and repeated. How many times? As a leader, you need to keep repeating the message over and over and over. It needs to become a daily mantra. People have to read it in your behavior. They have to read it in your words. They will judge you by your actions. If you say, "Person-centered services are the most important thing in this organization," and then you as a leader disappear into public policy matters and budget issues, then people will figure out that you may not be serious about this. What have we learned? First, leaders frame issues and opportunities. The way you as a leader frame issues provides the context for this issue. So in these tough times, you can frame this as, "Okay, we've got the budget problems. We've got these priorities. Now let's figure out what's most important to the people we serve and what we can afford to do. We've got to make some tough choices, and this is the time to do it." That's reframing, placing things in different context. The second thing we've learned is the experiential nature of change. Change takes place in groups. Individuals alone don't cause organizational change. It is groups of people that get together and collectively decide. Talking to one another, generating ideas, give and take, peer support, these are the ways that people begin to bond around a set of values and solutions. And third, organization transformation means working through groups of people. Where have we learned? In addition to CQL's own field-based learning through our work with organizations and people, we've drawn from and applied the best ideas from the practice of organizational development, appreciative inquiry, search and future search conferences, leadership research, diffusion of innovation, action research. From the field of organizational development, OD, we've learned that teams and groups are the focus of organization transformation efforts. Our experience is that individuals come back from workshops all fired up and have to confront the realities, the norms and assumptions within the organization. Teams and groups are the focus of the OD effort. We need to give them the support. We also know that external experts or consultants can only do so much. You must own at least 50% of the process and the result. An effective consultation helps you learn how to solve your own problems. It asks, where are your priorities? How can we help facilitate your discussion and learning about this? How can we help you put together a plan and help you locate additional resources? In our work with the people we support, we don't focus on their problems or what they can't do. We've gotten away from the problem-oriented approach. We don't focus on what they need to overcome. We focus on strengths and the things they like to do. Appreciative inquiry tells us the same thinking applies to organizations. Let's ask, what are your organizations doing well? Often, the first impulse is to ask, what's wrong? What barriers do you need to overcome? Appreciative inquiry says you start at the other direction. In every society, organization, or group, something is working. To get to organizational transformation, you've got to find what's working and use that to go forward. You affirm that people are doing something right. By acknowledging that, you are beginning to change the context. In any organization, what the leader focuses on becomes the reality. If you want to focus on problems that can't be solved, that's how people will see it. Instead, let's focus on the things that are going well and build on it and move on from there. Find examples of the best, what's real, and what's working. Get people together, get them talking, find out what's working, then build on that. Here's an example of typical consultation. The experts might present their findings this way. We took a look at 4 different areas in your organization. Looks like you're doing the best on category 1 and 4, not as well on 2, and number 3 is really low. What would be your impulse? Where would you start? Would you say, let's improve 3? Why not say instead, we seem to be doing best at number 4. Why is that? How can we use that information to get better at doing some other things? Think about our systems, feedback and assessments, survey and inspections, licensing, and what they tell us typically. You always have to fix what's broken. We suggest an alternative approach. How about finding those things you're doing well, identify them, and build on them? The Search Conference, or Future Search Model, offers another method for making change. It brings all people from the organization together to do real-time planning. Everyone gets a voice, and you feed the information back to the group. At the end, you have remarkable consensus about priorities and what's important to do next. The Search Conference links values, action, and data all together. We know that leadership controls the context of the situation. You can't control the external environment or events. You can control how you're going to respond and how you're going to frame it. That's the leader's responsibility. How we frame the situation is what leadership is all about. When things become uncertain, you don't necessarily need the answer. We need to have faith in the process that we think will get us to the answer. There is a path. It may be unknown right now, but there is a path to take us from here to where we need to go. We often see 2 types of leaders. One will say, I don't know where it's going to go. I'll just watch and see where you're going to do this. A different kind of leader says, I want to seize this. I want to use this to reframe my organization, place it in a new context. I don't know where it's going to go, but it will provide a path for the people we support, the families and staff. The Action Research Model presents a different approach for organizational change. Rather than learning and preparing to do and then waiting till the time is exactly right and you have all the facts, you're acting and learning from your actions. You're doing and learning. You start with some initial assumptions, and then act by taking a few steps, and then stop and ask, what did I just learn? Then based on what I just learned, take a few more steps, and then turn around and ask, what else did I learn? Innovation theory takes a look at how you may implement new ideas and cause them to be adopted and accepted by others. Sociologist Everett Rogers wrote extensively about this in his book, The Diffusion of Innovation. One key element in the process of adoption is compatibility. You need to ask how this change or innovation is compatible with past history or past values of the organization, and then find a message that stresses continuity. How can we take what works best and link it to a new idea or change effort? That way you build on a solid foundation. How do you make sure people will move forward with change or innovation? The most successful approach is when someone that person knows and trusts says, go ahead and try it. That's what makes it work. We hope this video has introduced you to some new ideas and reinforced what you already know about organization transformation and making change work. CQL is committed to working with organizations and systems to focus on what really matters, person-centered services and supports, and to bring about real change. To learn more about the CQL Focus Forum and other organization consultation services, visit our website, www.c-q-l.org.